How does this sound? I'm going to double your honey crop, stop your bees swarming, and make your life so much easier. We are, of course, talking about the Demaree split. In this video, I'm going to give you everything that you need to take the Demaree split from the very beginning all the way through to honey extraction at the end. We'll talk about the pros, we'll talk about the cons, we'll talk about who it's for, who it's not for, and most importantly, I will show you in the flesh why it is hands down the best swarm management technique out there. So let's get a few caveats out of the way first. A Demaree split is a preemptive swarm management measure. If you find charged swarm cells, you cannot do a Demaree. If your bees have already swarmed, you cannot do a Demaree. If you find play cups that have eggs and larvae inside them or any royal jelly, you cannot do a Demaree. We'll talk about the perfect timing later on in this video, but you basically want to catch the bees 1 or 2 weeks before they're about to swarm. That is perfection, and I'll show you how to achieve that in this video. My favorite thing about the Demaree split though is that it is not a horizontal split. It is a vertical split. We flip it on its head. Normally, with this beehive here, if the bees were going to swarm, I would have to do what is called an artificial swarm or a horizontal split. I turn this one beehive with one colony into 2 beehives with 2 colonies. Now that sounds great, doesn't it? 2 for the price of 1, but when you go from 1 to 2 to 4 to 8 to 250, you can't do it with big numbers, and you need a way to stop the bees swarming without doing multiple splits. The only equipment that you need for a Demaree split is 1 extra brood box full of frames. And that is, of course, exactly what I've got here. So a wooden brood box full of frames, full of foundation. You can do it with drawn comb, you can do it with a mixture of drawn comb and foundation. The only prerequisite that I will add in here is that everything here should be clean and disease-free. Now you'll see there that I've got the wooden box. When I'm doing a Demaree, the box that I like to lift up, I always like to make sure that there is an exit on that. Cover that a little bit later on in this video, and that's something that I missed out on my previous iteration showing people the Demaree. I also added in a second queen excluder, and that is not needed at all. So let's go right back to the beginning. What is a Demaree split? So the Demaree split is an alternative to a horizontal split. You do the split, but you do it on a single beehive stand. It was invented by George Demaree in 1892 as a way to reduce the congestion in the brood box and to try and trick the bees into thinking that they had swarmed. The wonderful byproduct of all of that I love is you get increased bees and increased honey. So I like to get into the mechanics of what was George trying to achieve all those years ago. And it was clear what he wanted to do was reduce the congestion in the brood box. And as I said, the Demaree all comes down to timing. Queen cells are there, you've left it too late. Charged cells, you've left it too late. You need to get it as close to the bees swarming as you possibly can without them showing any signs of swarming. You need to push your luck a little bit, and if you need to fall one side of the fence, you make sure you fall on the side of the fence that is the haven't started swarm prep. But when I think through the mechanics of a Demaree, and we'll show you all of that in this video, it really does serve the purpose. You've got a big heaving brood box down here that's full of bees, the queen's there, loads of brood. She's not got any additional space. And then at the end of the Demaree, we look at the box down there and we've just got 1 queen on a frame with loads of space. It'd be very easy for them to think that they have swarmed, even though they are in the same beehive. So let's talk about when you should be doing your Demaree splits. We said you always need to do it as a preemptive measure, never reactive, never to respond to the bee saying that we are swarming now or we're going to swarm soon. You have to look ahead a couple of weeks and get it just in time before the bees swarm. But you can Demaree a lot before that, and you can Demaree at any point in the season. Doing the Demaree 1 or 2 weeks before they swarm is the optimum. It's the most efficient for the bees and for the beekeeper, and it's going to lead to the biggest honey crops. But you can do the Demaree way before that, but I'm going to give you some really crucial guidelines in this video, because if you do it too early, you will kill your queen and potentially kill the colony. With the Demaree, timing is everything, and I'll show you all of that in this video. So let's talk about a couple of the prerequisites in terms of hive setup and where you should be before you even think about doing a Demaree split. This is the colony that we're going to do a Demaree split on today and in this video. It's on a very, very standard format. So I've got a floor, an underfloor entrance there. That bottom thing there is my floor. I've got a brood box here, and notice this, I've got an extra exit that I can remove, and I will be removing that at some point. But this here is the brood box. This is where the queen is, and this is full to the brim with bees and brood. I've then got a queen excluder, and then I've got 2 national shallow supers, so 1 super and 2 supers here. And then this is my insulated crown board that I just leave on all the time. And then this is my roof. This is the absolute bare minimum that you require to even think and consider a Demaree split. I'm not going to sit on the fence here at all. You need a brood box full to the brim with bees, and you need at least 2 supers full to the brim with bees. Anything less than that, wait until you reach those parameters. If your bees swarm before you reach those parameters, potentially look at your stock. That is not what you want. So we spoke about timing of when to do the Demaree, and I'm standing here today on the 1st of July, and you're thinking, wow, that is really, really late for a Demaree. But I quite like doing one last final season Demaree on the big strong colonies because it just gives me a little bit of breathing space around this time of the year. The beauty of the Demaree split is that if you do it properly, it is very, very predictable. You come in, you do one manipulation, you come back 8 days later, do another manipulation, we'll cover all of that. But by doing those 2 manipulations, you generally get 3 weeks where you know the bees are not going to swarm. And I'm talking upwards of 90–95%. It works very, very well if you do it correctly and you time it well. So for me, we've just gone past the summer equinox. I've got big, strong colonies here. There is still a potential risk of swarming. The days are coming down in length now, and I'm thinking, well, you know, if I can just get through the next 3 or 4 weeks and not lose any swarms, then I don't think I'm going to lose any more. So the Demaree is perfect for a bit of late summer swarm prevention. The time that I use it most is generally around the back end of April, early May, and for me, probably no later than the middle of May. You need to look at where you are in the UK and you need to work out where your slot is. Your slot might be the 1st of April. I really don't know. You have to use a little bit of trial and error, and you have to adapt it based upon the weather each year. But if you're in the middle of April, back end of April, early May, and you've got the colony set up like this, that's the important thing, completely full, a brood box, queen excluder, at least 2 supers, maybe you've got 3 supers, then you can just go ahead and do the Demaree split. So this is what happens when people do the Demaree split wrong. They either do it too late, and there's already swarm preps going on, and then the bees just go and swarm anyway, so it's a complete waste of effort. Or they do it way too early, they isolate the queen dies, they merge the colony back up, and you've effectively get exactly what you started off with just in the top box, and the queen is dead. That is not a Demaree split, that's definitely not what we want to achieve. The aim of a Demaree split is clear. We want to reduce the congestion in the brood box in order that the queen can lay as many eggs as she likes. The way that we do that in a Demaree is we remove the existing brood nest up above the supers and we replace it with a brand new brood box full of foundation with 1 frame of brood and the queen downstairs. Now, I remember someone telling me that before and I thought, I don't understand what you just said there. That's really, really complicated. And that is why I'm doing this video. So we'll chuck up a nice little graphic there here. This is what a Demaree split looks like. We start off with a floor down here. On the floor, we have a brood box. Inside, we have a healthy queen, loads of brood down here. Then we have our queen excluder. We have 2 supers full to the brim with bees and lots of honey. They do need to be full, and I will show you how full they are in a little bit. This is the configuration to start off with. What we are going to do is as follows. We are going to take this brood box down here and we are going to lift it up to the top up here. I'm not going to put any queen excluders in, but I am going to open up the entrance at the top. Now, where that brood box was, I'm going to replace that with a brand new brood box. And then the only additional thing that I need to do is go into the top brood box where all the bees and the queen are, take out a frame with the queen on, place it downstairs underneath the queen excluder, and I have successfully reduced congestion downstairs in the brood box and essentially reset it. 8 days later, you come back, you go through every single frame up in the top box, and they might have made emergency cells due to the fact that the queen is down there and all of the open brood is up there and the pheromone can't come up. Sometimes they don't do that. If you've got like turbocharged pheromone queen, they might not make emergency cells, but you have to come back 8 days later through that top box, shake down every single frame, take down any emergency cells, put it all back together again, and then just leave it for a couple of weeks. Now that's the theory. We are going to do the demo today. I promise we're going to do it. I just want to give you all of the information up front before you make any errors. So once you've completed that manipulation, you've gone back 8 days later, you've taken down all the queen cells, the manipulation is complete. It's done. There's nothing more to do. But there will be a byproduct, which is you'll have a top brood box. All of the brood is going to emerge. Whilst that brood is emerging, the queen is busy laying down in the bottom box, creating a bump of workforce of bees. And if you time that with a honey flow, you will see that this top box, this brand new top box that used to be the original brood box, begins to get filled with honey. Now, the problem with the previous video, it didn't give you a resolution or a way to extract that honey. So here we go. If that top box has never been treated with any chemicals like Apivar, you can just extract directly out of those frames. Doesn't matter that there's been brood in there before. As long as they're not horrible black manky frames, you are fine to extract as long as there is no residue of chemicals. If there is a residue of chemicals like Apivar, I am going to show you in this video how to fix that, to take all of the honey out of that top box and to get it back in the supers where it belongs. It's a super quick method and very, very effective. So my smoker's burnt down, I'm ready to go in. Let me show you how full this colony needs to be to do that Demaree split. So you can see the top box there, pretty much full of bees. If I go down into those frames there, you can see every single frame is drawn out. And if I just pull out some of those frames there, you can see we've got supers full of honey. Every single frame in those 2 supers really should look like this, and they need to be covered by bees as well. So you can see lots and lots of honey being stored up here. Even without the Demaree split, the bees are doing very well indeed. And even if I go over to the edge ones, you'll see the bees are on the edge ones and they're drawing everything out. So that box there is completely full. Now, if I take this box off here and place it down there, again, if I start taking some frames out, you can see the bees are already starting to cap it. This is the status. This really is what you need. You need 2 supers full to the brim with bees and full to the brim with stores. So my second brood box is looking exactly the same. I'm going to get my veil up now because it's a big, strong colony. And I know if I go into the brood box without the veil up, probably going to get pings to the face, so might as well be as safe as I can be. Felt the first warning sign there as well, so let's get this veil up. So really good weight to that super. You can see I've got 2 big, strong supers full. And as you can see, we've also got a very well stocked brood box. If your brood box does not look like this, do not do the Demaree split. It needs to be a big, strong brood box. Don't do it when it's on 4 frames or 6 frames. Only do it when it's full like this. So you can see really nice big full box there all the way across, 11 frames. I'll pull some of them out now and I'll show you just how packed out this box is. So you have to remember the first rule of Demaree splits. Do not do it if the bees are preparing to swarm. So as you're preparing the Demaree split, you have to do that final check. And before you set it all up, make sure there's no charged cells. Make sure they're not swarming. Make sure the queen's there. You cannot do a Demaree split if your bees are already trying to swarm. So let me go in and show you what this colony is looking like. It's a really nice, big, strong colony. You'll get the idea very quickly. So first one there, really nice, good frame of brood. Put that off to one side just to show you what's going on. So another frame of brood there. There's my queen. That was convenient. Right, so the number one thing, the thing that you cannot do without when you're doing a Demaree split, you need to find the queen. If you can't find the queen, you cannot do a Demaree split. Luckily, I found her on the second frame in, so that was very, very easy. So when you find your queen, this is what you do. It's literally the easiest thing in the world. You take your additional brood box that is just full of frames of foundation like that. If I was going to choose and have drawn comb or foundation, it's one of the times where I would choose foundation. I like to slow the bees down and to use that foundation to really slow the swarm down. But all you do, you find your queen, she is on there. A couple of close-ups of the queen before she goes in. And she wants to be on a frame of emerging brood. That is a perfect frame of emerging brood there. Quite a lot of drones on it as well, but it's a very good, strong colony. And there we go, you can see the queen wandering around. So you take your queen, make yourself a little bit of space, and just place that frame in there for the time being. And we leave that there until we finish checking the other hive. So let's quickly go through the rest of the frames. That one there needs a bit of work, that frame, but it is fully drawn out. Another frame of brood in all stages and eggs, very good. Now, when I get towards the middle, I like to shake the frames a little bit like that, just so I can see if there's any swarm cells. So we've got eggs, that's very good. Eggs down in the cells. Shows that the queen was laying. If there weren't any eggs, that's a sign that they might have been trying to swarm. Lots of good drones there. This is a breeder queen colony, a very, very good breeder queen colony. VSH tendencies and perfect for doing late season Demaree splits. So we've got another frame there, lots and lots of brood. Now, you don't have to do this. You can do the inspection the day before. Just make sure you're confident the bees aren't swarming. And then you don't need to do this process the day that you're doing the Demaree. You can do it the day before if you want. But you do have to check, you do have to shake the frames off, because if you do it wrong, the bees swarm anyway, and you've just added an extra box into the mix. It just complicates everything. You get a couple of chances in the season to really make the most of the Demaree, and this here is one of them. So a little bit of damage on that one there, but no problem at all. So I'm going to put all the frames back together. That was the final one. We'll shake that off. And then the one single frame that you took out of the top box where you put the queen, you put that one back here. So we are now perfectly primed for the Demaree split, and it's as simple as this. You've got one box here with no queen in, with all the brood on. Now take that off now and just place it anywhere. I've then got the brand new brood box that is full to the brim with frames of foundation, with one frame of brood and the queen. I place that onto the original position, and then I always like to confirm that the queen is still there. So I just go back down, she should be on there, and there we go, queen is still on there. Always make sure the queen is down there. It's then a case of just building everything back up again. So queen excluder goes back on. First super goes back on, second super goes back on. Then in the previous video, I put another queen excluder here. I do not do that anymore. The final piece of the jigsaw is the original brood box, full of bees, full of brood, full of worker brood, drones, everything. Now, if you didn't do anything else at this point, here is what would happen. All of the drones here would try and get out. They'd go down through the boxes and they would get trapped in the queen excluder and they would die. I don't want to kill the drones. The drones are the good guys. They get a bad rap all the time. So all I'm going to do is just open an entrance up here. So there we go. I've got my entrance open there, and that means that any drones that want to go out from up there can, and then they can just come back in the entrance if they need to. Look how many bees are there. Do not do it if your brood box does not look like this. They have to be packed. So the final thing that goes on is my polyash froth feeder, so just a crown board, and then I place the roof back on. So I can take my veil off now. It is very warm today. So this is the brand new setup. I've got the same floor that I had before. I've got the brand new brood box that is full with frames of foundation, with one frame of emerging brood and the queen. I've then got the queen excluder in the same place, the supers in the same place, so is this one. This is the original brood box that I brought up to the top. It's not got a queen anymore, and I've just replaced that one frame of capped brood with a frame of foundation. I've opened up this additional entrance here so drones can come in, drones can come out. There shouldn't be any blockages anywhere. My next job is to come back up here in 8 days' time. So I come on the 9th day after doing it, and I'm going to shake down all of these frames up here, shake the bees off, take down any emergency cells. In the meantime, this is what's likely to happen. All of the brood is up here. That is going to attract and maintain a lot of nurse bees. All of the nurse bees are going to stay up here until the bees start drawing out the foundation downstairs and the queen starts going and laying eggs. The eggs and the larvae being laid down there will then bring the nurse bees down here to tend to these bees, and all of the brood that is up here should emerge, and they should become even more nurse bees that can bolster this population down there. You essentially get a 4 to 6 week period after doing the Demaree split with an incredible increase in the amount of bees that the colony will produce. It is mind-blowing. I'll throw in one negative for the Demaree split here. If a normal queen can last, say, 3 years, if you're doing Demaree splits, I would say you're probably going to bump that down to about 2 years. Now, it's going to pay for itself many times over with the amount of additional honey that you're going to get and the fact that it's so much easier to manage them, so you don't need to go around. But you will need to replace the queens a little bit more often. And obviously, if you want top quality queens, we have a huge range of Black Mountain honey. My personal favorite are the premium F1 Buckfast queens. So there's nothing more for me to do here today. I'll be back here in 8 days, so on the 9th day, to come down, do all of those checks there. I'll show you in the top, I'll show you in the bottom. Hopefully we'll see some expansion of a brood nest downstairs. But the most important thing that we always need to ensure with the Demaree split is that this doesn't happen. You do not leave enough bees to connect everything together. If this was all made of glass, in a couple of days, this is what you would see. The colony would have drawn out some frames there, and you'll effectively have a big cluster of bees covering this entire space here. The colony thinks it's one, it just thinks the brood is in the wrong place, but it knows where the queen is, that brood area is now not as congested as before, so it should stop the swarming impulse. This is where people get it wrong. They don't have enough bees in there, there's not enough bees in the supers, there's not enough bees in the brood box. The colony has to decide, who do we save? Do we save our brood or do we save our queen? They genuinely have to make that decision because both of those things need to be kept warm and they need to be tended to. Every single time the colony will make the decision to go with the brood up here, which will mean that you might get a cluster looking something like this, which for that queen down there on a single frame of brood is very, very bad news. And likely you'll come back and you'll find her dead on the floor. It's a really good way of remembering it with the Demaree split. You need to have enough bees to fill that entire beehive there. And if you don't, wait a few more weeks until you're ready to do it. Let's fast forward 8 days and see how well this colony gets on. So it's been 8 days since we did the Demaree split. Before I show you what's in this top box, I just want to give you a tiny little bit of advice. We said to use a brood box that has an additional entrance at the top like this. Not all brood boxes have that. So you can either drill yourself a hole or you can do something like this and just leave the box a crack open, which means that the drones can come out and they won't get squished upstairs or squished in that queen excluder. Don't trap your drones, it's not very nice and there's no need for it. A big strong colony at pretty much any time of the year will be able to defend a crack like this. So you can see all I've done there is just left that top box open ajar. A drone can easily get through. So if your brood box doesn't have an entrance, you can create one like this. So you can see the top box is still full to the brim with bees, and I'd expect to see that. That's not the area that's at risk in a Demaree split, it's the bottom box that is at risk. All of the brood will keep the young bees up here, and obviously all of those young nurse bees are emerging, which further boost that population of young bees. So whenever you're doing Demaree splits, always get the smoker lit, always give them a little bit more smoke than you normally would. You're creating a super colony here. It's essentially 2 colonies, and they get the economies of scale in defense, so you might get a little bit of tetchiness with a Demaree split. Have your smoker on hand. So I'll go through each and every single frame, I'll bring it to the camera, show you exactly what's going on, shake the frames off, and I'll show you what the bees have built. They generally build emergency cells, they don't always do it. Doesn't matter if they don't do it, the really important thing that you need to know about day 8 is when you leave on day 8, there cannot be any emergency cells upstairs. If there's none to start off with, then you're in a good place, still double check. If there are some, you have to take them down, and you cannot miss one or the bees will swarm. So that's the first frame that I've got there. You can see, got a little bit of damage on that one, it got stuck to the side, but no brood on that one at all, but I'm gonna shake it off just to double check. So you can see there, nothing on that frame. We need to make sure that every single frame looks like this. So next frame, a lot more bees, a lot more brood. Doesn't look like any emergency cells, but you always have to shake just to make sure. So I'm gonna get onto one of the most important parts of the Demaree split, and it's just reminded me there is so much nectar coming out of these cells, and this box up here can be turned into a super, and you might be able to extract from it, and you might not be able to extract from it. We will cover all of that in the video, but for the time being, we need to take a close-up look of all of this nectar coming out. So that's the next frame. You can see a lot of nectar is in there, not as much brood, no emergency cells. The only bit I'm not entirely sure about is that bit there. Looks like a play cup, but I'm squishing it down anyway. So take a look at the amount of nectar that's being stored in these frames here. I need to shake this off, but look at all that nectar coming out. So that's the third frame, just nectar going into that one, so that one can go straight back in. Okay, so next frame, and we're moving now towards a lot more brood. Check that out. Huge amounts of capped brood, nothing left open. These are the frames where you might start to see those emergency cells. But luckily, this one here, pretty much perfect, no cells present. Lots of bees on this frame. And again, you can see no emergency cells, lots and lots of capped brood, and also a fair amount of nectar. So, another frame of capped brood. Doesn't look like they're too keen to create the emergency cells, which is very good in my opinion. So I'm just gonna put my full suit on, few bees under the t-shirt. I thought I'd get more comfortable. So another frame. So it doesn't look like there's any emergency cells on that one. And this one right here probably is a drone, but I'm still gonna mush that one down. Anything you see like that does need to. Again, on this side here, we have a play cup. It's not a cell, but I'm just gonna smush that down like that. I find that as you progress towards the brood nest, you'll see more and more of those. If I had to wager, I think we'll find some emergency cells on the next couple of frames. So another frame. Nothing on that one, but as you can see, look at all that brood. You can see how many nurse bees are gonna come out of that brood there. This is how we get that dramatic boost in bee numbers. So another frame, not gonna find any emergency cells, I don't think here. And maybe that tiny emergency cell was the only one that they did. So next frame is just nectar and a bit of pollen in there as well. Nothing like, no emergency cells at all. And then the final frame is a little bit mangled, but definitely no cells on that one. So the fact that they've not created any emergency cells is not an issue, and it probably comes down to how strong your queen's pheromone is. We've got a Black Mountain Honey queen in here, obviously the best queens around, and the pheromone is probably reaching up to that top box and keeping all of those bees happy. If there are any emergency cells in that top box, you have to take them down. And if you don't know what an emergency cell looks like, it will look like this. If it's looking like a different type of cell, a swarm or supersedure cell, you might need to do something different. These are the type of cells, the emergency cells that you should see in the top box. Shake the bees off, take down every single one, and then we move on. So you can see the bees are still working very, very hard up there in the super. These frames are getting very, very close to the point of harvest. I am in fact going to go ahead at the end of this video and add another super on here. Doing a Demaree split does not mean that you stop adding space if the bees need it. What I'm seeing here is lots and lots of full boxes, so I'm going to add some more space. Same with the box below. In fact, it looks even more mature. Look at the honey there, beautiful white cappings. So as I said, just give them a little puff of smoke. They don't need much. These are very nice calm bees. There's just a lot of them. Now, ideally, this is what you're going to see downstairs in the brood box. You want to see bees still there. You know you've got your one frame of brood. You want to see expansion. And you know what? As long as you're seeing a tiny bit of expansion, maybe half a frame, one frame, all is good. If you're seeing the queen, even better. If you're seeing the queen and new eggs and they're expanding, you've pretty much completed it. That is the most difficult bit out of the way. So you can see tons of space still available down in the brood nest. The idea of the Demaree split is to reduce congestion in the brood box. We've definitely done that. Here is our original brood frame, and this is generally where I find or expect to see the queen. So you can see the queen is still on there. I would still check this frame for any swarm cells, but if you've got the queen on this frame, no cells above, almost certainly not going to swarm for another couple of weeks. So the two adjacent frames you can see here, look, lots of drones hanging out down there because all of the nurse bees are taking the space upstairs. If I shake them off, you'll see we've got signs of growth. So that there is what it would look like with no signs of growth or a tiny bit. And then what you can see there, the difference between the foundation and that drawn out wax is the bees are expanding. Even more so on the other adjacent frame. So that side they're not doing anything, but then they're drawn out pretty much a full frame. No eggs in it just yet, but that queen's got plenty of time to get back into action. This Demaree split is going very, very well indeed. So the next steps to the Demaree split are you literally do nothing for another couple of weeks. You get 2 weeks of just going and doing normal inspection. So my queen excluder goes on. Supers are going back on in exactly the same order as before. I'm going to place an additional super just with foundation on top there. So that is a new super for today to give the bees additional space for honey. And then I'm placing my brood box back on top. So back to the exact same setup as before, same roof, same polyasphalt feeder, same brood box here. This super's the same, this one's the same, queen excluder, brood box and a floor. The only additional box I've added in there, and you only have to add this in if you need it, if the bees are running out of space for honey, is an additional super. So I continue my weekly inspections now. I'll come back in a week's time and all I'm going to do is just inspect that bottom box for swarming to make sure they've got enough food and for everything that I do in my normal inspections. I will of course cover all of that in this video. We'll be back here in 7 days time and then we'll be back here in 14 days time as well to show you what to do with this box once it's full of honey. So it's a couple of days since I did the Demaree split. Do not go into your beehives and do this, but I thought I'd just do a 48-hour check to show you that it is all right and show you what I mean by some bees going downstairs and staying with the queen. We're going to have loads of bees up here because that's where all the brood is. I guess we're still going to have loads of bees in the supers. You would have thought so, wouldn't you? They shouldn't go anywhere else. This is the at-risk area. We don't want all of the bees up there and for them to leave the queen downstairs. Fingers crossed they're down there with the queen. Hopefully she's laying eggs, but they definitely should have started drawing it out by now. Let's get in, see what we find. So, huge amount of bees in the top box. That is exactly what I expect to see. Really good. So, still got supers, all good. Bees are filled. I have done this before and it's gone wrong, so fingers crossed. But no, it is going well. So if you're seeing this after 48 hours, and you will not be seeing it because you will not be doing this, I do not want you to do it. Make sure the queen there. If you're seeing this after 48 hours, it has gone well. This is the frame that should have the queen on, and it's got enough brood that it's kept the colony all together. 48 hours in, this is what you should be seeing. And let's have a look, see if they've drawn anything out. Not started it yet. Oh, just started it. So that is a perfect sign. And look what they've done on that side there, really good. So you can see they're drawing stuff out now. But most importantly, the at-risk period for this queen is now over. Always get a little bit worried about that. Right, so let's get the queen in first. Where's she gone? They always go hiding. Right, I've got my queen. So putting her in nice and safe, everything back together in exactly the same format. So queen in her brood box down there, first super going back on, second super back on as well. Brood box, we need to come back in another 6 days because we're only on day 2, but we're coming back on day 8. And then feeder and roof. So there we go, we passed the 48-hour test. A little bit grumpy doing it quite late at night, as you can probably tell from the sun, but that is really good news. The cluster remains as one, the Demaree is working. I'll be back in 6 days to take down the emergency cells from up there. No way this colony is going to swarm. So we're still in exactly the same position. I've done nothing since the last update in this video. The bees can still use this entrance here. The queen is downstairs. Hopefully that brood nest has expanded. And then the challenge that we have next is what to do with this top box here. So what I think we're going to see in here today is a tiny little bit of brood remaining and lots of stores. Maybe capped, maybe uncapped, might just be nectar, but we're going to see a big change up here today in this box here in particular. Now, if you remember, this is the box that was the original brood box of the colony that went downstairs. We switched it back up here. The queen is down there, queen excluder's in place. Let's get inside today, see how this box is getting on, and then at the end of this video, I will give you a way to use the honey in this box to make sure that it can end up in your jars. Let's jump straight into it. I love my Demaree splits. So if you're going into your Demaree splits and they look like this and you've got lots of bees in the top box, that is 50% of the battle. The bigger risk lies down in that brood nest, but we know that the queen's down there, so I'm confident that everything is going to be okay. So let me give you a frame by frame update of what we're seeing upstairs. That there is the easiest win in the world. That is a damaged frame with literally nothing on it apart from a few bees and a bit of pollen. Imagine how easy it would be if all of the frames looked like that. Sadly, we're going to find some nectar in there, but this is a good start. And if you want, you can just take that out, shake the bees out, and that is one less frame to worry about. Okay, the next frame, slightly different, is a little bit mangled, this frame as well, but you'll see what we've got in the middle there is capped honey. We have to deal with that capped honey in a certain way, because if this frame here has been used previously with Apivar, that honey in this frame is tainted. Right, so here we go with the frames that matter. Look what we've got in this frame here. It is absolutely jam-packed with nectar and the bees are starting to cap it over. Now, if you've treated your colony with Apivar previously, all of this honey here is going to go to waste. But there is a way around it, and once we've been through all of these frames today, I'm going to show you exactly what you have to do. So as we get closer into the middle, you'll see here that the bees have still got plenty of brood. All of this brood needs to emerge, and you cannot do anything with this box or any of those frames until all of this brood has emerged. You could do, but it's a massive waste. The reason that the Demaree works so well is because all of these bees here add on to the total number of foragers available. This right here is how you get those bumper honey crops. So whatever you do, don't do the next step before all of this brood here has emerged. So we've still got one frame of capped brood, 2 frames of capped brood. That is mostly honey, but a little bit of drone brood on it. Again, another frame of capped brood, so 4 frames of capped brood. That one is mostly stores. Bit of capped brood on that one, so 5 frames. Stores there as well. And then the final frame is stuck in, but it is just stores. So no action required in the top box. We need to wait until all of that brood has emerged. Now, if you remember last week, I put an additional super on. The bees have not really touched that yet, although they're moving up into it, which is good. And then the bees are working very well up in the supers as well. So that top super, I would say, is about 75% full. And then if we go down to the super that's closest to the brood nest, you'll see lots of capped honey, but more importantly, the connection amongst the bees at the top and the bottom. This is the most important concept in the Demaree split. When you take that queen and separate her downstairs from the brood nest, you need to ensure that the whole colony can still talk to each other, communicate with each other, and feel like it is one. If there's not enough bees in the supers like this to connect the colony together, you'll just find all of the bees up in the top box, you'll find emergency cells up there, and the queen will be dead and there'll be nothing downstairs. 2 supers of bees as an absolute minimum when you do your Demaree splits. So let's take a look down in the brood nest, and interesting, there are a few drones on the queen excluder, but none of them are dead, none of them are getting stuck, and if you put that top entrance in, you'll make sure that you do not kill any drones. The drones are the good guys, we love our drones, please do not kill them. So take a look at that, real expansion downstairs in the brood nest, but you know what, this is a brilliant demonstration. It's a few weeks now past doing the Demaree split, and look how much space I've still got in the brood nest. The aim of the Demaree split is to ease congestion in the brood nest. Without a doubt, it fulfills that objective because 3 weeks later, it's only about 50 or 60%. So, lots of space still downstairs in the brood nest. The bees all connected together. The Demaree split really is a game changer. So, plenty of space still in the brood nest, lots of honey in the top boxes. The Demaree split, if you do it properly, works like a dream. So, we talk about creating space in the brood nest. We've still got a frame of foundation down there. This is exactly what we want to see. Yet another frame of foundation. And even that one there, that's the 4th one in. It's got lots of bees on. They've not drawn it out yet. Do not be alarmed if this is what you're seeing. This is exactly how the Demaree works, and this is how it should work. 5 frames in, and I've finally found a frame that the bees have started to draw out. So you'll see on that side there, the bees are yet to draw it out, and then I'll flip it around and you can see the bees are working hard. So get it on the close-up camera as well. Bees drawing out that wax very nicely. So this was the original brood frame that was down there, and as you can see, we have a perfect brood frame. So if you take a look at that frame there, the frame of brood that originally went in there, we've still got our queen on it. She's probably been on other ones as well, this is always the frame that I go for. You generally find her on there because it's going to have the most nurse bees. So then the next frame along, we're back to half foundation and half drawn out. So although there's quite a lot of bees down there, they're yet to draw things out. And at the moment, I've only got 2 drawn frames down there in the bottom bit of the Demaree split. For me, this is pretty much perfect. I'm going to stack everything back up again. I've got tons of space downstairs in the brood nest. I've got about another week or 10 days for all of the brood upstairs to emerge, and then we'll move on to the next step, which is operation. Get all of the honey out of that top brood box and make sure it goes into the supers. So it's been a couple of weeks since we last looked in the Demaree split. There is going to be no brood left in this top box. And I'm going to show you the most important part of the Demaree process now, getting the honey from this box into your supers. So you can see we've still got quite a lot of bees up in the top box, quite a lot of drones as well. But now all of that brood has emerged. So we've got frames now that look like this. I could just shake the bees off and I can take that frame out. There's no stores, there's no honey, there is literally nothing in there. But take a look at that one there. We've got a little bit of capped honey on that. So again, I can just shake my bees off there, and underneath these white cappings, we are going to have some honey. So what is so nice about all of these frames here is it's giving me a little bit of everything. We've got some capped honey on there, but we've also got some open nectar. And it's a really important differentiation there. Open nectar is very easy to get the bees to move around the beehive. Capped honey is impossible unless you do something that I'm going to show you at the end of this video. So again, a little bit of open nectar in there, tiny little bit of capped honey. And as we progress to where the brood was, we're going to start seeing more of that. So here we go. We've got lots of open nectar, but we've also got maybe 1/3 of a frame of capped honey. That frame there is a substantial frame, a really heavy frame, probably 2 pounds of honey maybe in there, a little bit of open nectar as well. We don't want all of that to go to waste. And again, another really substantial frame. And you can see the common denominator with all of these frames now, there is no brood whatsoever. So this box that I've taken off now is no longer a brood box. All that we've got inside here is honey, stores, open nectar, capped honey, and a few remaining bees. I will show you in a little bit what I do to get the honey out of there into the supers. But before we do that, let's take a look at the rest of the beehive. Let's take a look at the rest of the colony and see where those bees have gone. We've got a super, a queen excluder, and the brood box on the floor. Now that we've not got the brood upstairs where it originally was up there, all of the nurse bees, all of the brood will now be down here accompanying the queen. And you can see we've completely reset the cycle there. Brood is at the bottom, queen is at the bottom, the cluster, the brood nest is down there, and everything above is honey. The only problem we have is that this is potentially tainted with apivar, so we want to take the honey out of this brood box, this national deep box, and put it into the supers. Now we spoke at the beginning about making sure that you had enough bees to do the Demaree split. I've still got an empty super there and this has still worked, but this is probably just about on the edge of where you want to be. What I'm saying there is I could have got away without putting that additional super on. But then look at the rest of the boxes. We've got a decent amount of honey. I did this Demaree split very, very late. We are nearly in August now. Do this in the spring and you will get boxes full to the brim of honey. But we've got some lovely frames there. Again, open stores on there. We've got capped honey as well. These started off the year as foundation and you can see the bees have capped it all over. So if I'm picking up that box there, I'd say that's probably about half a super full of honey. It's got a really good amount of weight to it. And then this second box is exactly the same again, a really good amount of weight to it. The bees have tunneled up a little bit. They've used those middle frames and that frame there is perfect. That's a really nice frame. I'd definitely have that one there to extract. I'll give them a shake off and come and show you that one. So you can see we've got a decent amount of honey in there, but we've still got some space. I'm going to get that honey from that brood box and fill in all of these voids. So let's get inside the brood nest and see how that colony has expanded. Last time they were only on a single frame downstairs in the brood nest, and I can see already that they've expanded nicely. But as you can see, we've got tons and tons of space down here in the brood nest. We've still got frames of foundation that the bees haven't used. And that's more than likely because we're doing this very, very late on in the season. But we can see expansion down there. You can see the bees connecting themselves together there. It's called festooning. And they're trying to draw out that foundation, but there's not a huge amount coming in at the moment. Again, they're just about starting to draw all of that foundation out. If I shake this frame off here, you'll see they're bringing in a bit of pollen. They are starting to draw it out. I think this colony here is ready for a feed. But this is all good. We've still got brood, we've still got eggs, still got my queen. Queen is on that frame there. She's quite happy, she's content. The Demaree has worked. It's given her effectively unlimited space, way more space than they needed, which has stopped this colony here from swarming. So I've got a few options here, and if you're seeing a colony like this, my recommendation to you would just be take the best frames from your brood box there that's got lots of honey in, and take your best frames from this brood box here that's got the queen in, got the brood in, and just merge them together, and then the bees don't need to be fed for winter. That is definitely what I'm going to do with this colony here because of the configuration and the setup. But before I do that, I want to show you a couple of methods if you've got big, booming, strong Demaree splits for getting the honey in this Apivar tainted box up into the super. So these frames here have previously been used in the brood box and they've been tainted with Apivar. What that means is that you cannot extract out of the frames that are in this brood box if you've used Apivar before. It does not mean that the honey is tainted. You can get the bees to move the honey from these frames into clean, fresh frames, and then the honey is absolutely fine to consume. Bees will only move honey or stores or nectar around the hive if it is uncapped. If it's capped over, like this honey up here, the bees will not move it regardless of the configuration that you set your hive up in. You have to bruise it first. What you're seeing down here is open nectar, and the bees will move that around. If you configure the hive correctly and you put the open nectar, the open stores below the brood nest, they will move it around. So luckily, all you need to do to turn the capped honey into open stores is take a hive tool and you want to bruise the honey like this. You're not taking it off, you don't want to take the cappings off, you just want to go across it and bruise all of the frames. Now taking it off would look like this, and you can see that's probably taking it a bit too far, but you want to go somewhere in between, somewhere about this consistency over here. So I'll do this whole frame quickly, just get the bees off it. And you need to make sure that every single cell that you want to be moved is bruised and opened like this. Any that you leave, the bees will just not uncap. So it becomes a little bit messy and it becomes a bit awkward if the bees get involved in it. But that is what a bruised frame should look like. And when you do this manipulation, make sure you close up your entrances too. So I'm going to go through every single frame here in this brood box and I'm going to bruise it like that. So this is the box that started off at the top originally. I've been through it, it's full of honey, open stores, capped stores, I've bruised everything. And what I'm going to do now, take my queen excluder and place it onto the beehive like that, onto the brood box. And I'm going to take the brood box that was sat at the bottom and place it on top. I'm then going to lift the entire double brood configuration and place it over here. You then take another queen excluder, place it on top like that. And then you need to make a judgment call at this point. How much space do you need to give in the supers to enable the bees to move the honey from this box all the way up into the supers? For me, it's quite easy because I've got one half box there. That's definitely going to go on. And then I've got another half box there, still with some foundation on, that's fine. And then I do have a third box that I could use, but there is plenty of space in those two boxes over there. So I'm just going to shake that one free and put it back into storage. We finish up by putting the polyashphos feeder back on. So lid back on, and that completes the next part of the Demaree process. We have completely switched things up today. This box here started off at the top and it is now full of honey, and we've bruised all of the capped honey and made sure that it is open so the bees can move it. We've then got a queen excluder there, so the queen that is in this box here cannot move out. There's now a queen excluder above her and a queen excluder below her. That is very, very important. If you don't put that secondary queen excluder in, all the queen does is she just says, thank you very much, I'm going to go and lay up loads of eggs down there, especially if it's in the spring. The idea now is very, very simple. This is the brood nest and the bees have open honey stores below them, which is not what the bees like. The bees do not like that configuration. So as soon as the good weather comes back, as soon as we get a flow on, as soon as the bees are active in this hive again, they're going to take all the honey there and lift it up and place it into the supers. And then all I need to do is come back to this box in 2 or 3 days' time, depending on the weather, take it away, and I'm back to my exact original configuration. Of course, we'll be back here to give you that final update to see the configuration of the Demaree split once it is complete. So it's been 2 weeks since we left this box here full of uncapped stores, and the idea being that bees don't like uncapped stores below the brood nest. The bees have been busy over the past 2 weeks moving all of those uncapped stores upwards, and we're going to go in and see what they've left behind. Full of beautifully preserved comb. You will get some bits that are still capped, you'll still get bits with pollen in. You're definitely going to see some bees down there as well. But the next part of the Demaree split is super simple. We have got 2 brood boxes with a queen and a brood nest inside, and we just want to compress that down now to 1 brood nest with 1 brood box. Obviously the queen is still going to be in there, and it's going to result in some surplus frames. There might be some frames that are perfect to go back into storage because they're completely empty. There might be some frames that have got some cap stores that the bees didn't move that you can go off and make some splits with. You have a box of frames and you can use some of the resources, and you can use those resources in different ways. But for the purpose of this video, the Demaree, we're going to turn these 2 boxes now into 1, and I'll give you a look at some of the frames that we're going to keep and some of the frames that we're going to take off and use for something else. So I'll show you inside those supers in a little bit, but I'm more interested in what is in this top box. A lot of your good frames are going to be in this top box, and you're going to see frames like this, frames of capped brood in all stages, and obviously your queen is going to be up here as well. So then going down to the bottom box, there's still a lot of bees down here in this bottom box, but what you are likely to see in this bottom box is frames like this. Looks like there's stuff in it, but if you shake it off, it's just an empty frame. So you can take the frames like that, put them off over to one side, and you want to go through anything that's empty and can just be taken off into storage, go and place it into storage. Any frames of cap stores down here, any frames of pollen, go off and make yourself some nukes. We want to compress the 22 frames in these 2 brood boxes here, and I'm going to pick the best ones to suit my configuration depending on the time of the year. So if it's early on in the year, I want lots of capped frames of brood. If it's later on in the year, I'm going to give them a little bit more stores. I'm going to do that now, go through all of those frames, build it back up, and you will see why the Demaree split is so neat. It's because we end up with the exact same configuration that we started with. So we're back in the exact same configuration that we started with. A brood box, a queen excluder, and 2 supers. Now, although I've not got lots and lots of supers, and if you do the Demaree at the right time of the year, you could have 3, 4, 5, 6 supers, we do have a decent amount of honey in some of these frames here, and I would estimate we're probably going to have maybe 15 to 20 pounds in each of these shallow boxes here. But as I said, do it at the right time of the year, and this is where you will see the magic happen. All of that uncapped stores will come up from that bottom brood nest, and if you time that with a flow and the expansion of the bees, these next few weeks now are prime gathering time for that enhanced colony. You almost get a double cycle of brood, so don't come back disheartened after the 3 weeks and think, well, the bees haven't really done that much. It's mission complete. You have successfully navigated that 3-week period. And remember back to the beginning of this video, I'm not doing it for an enhanced harvest. I am doing it to ensure that the bees do not swarm during that 3-week period. And here we are 3 weeks later and the bees have not swarmed. Even better than that though, I've got a turbocharged brood nest. I've got a double brood that has recently emerged. I've got lots and lots and lots of bees. And this colony is now supercharged to take advantage of the late heather flow. Time your Demarees perfect like this, and I guarantee you will get a bumper honey crop year after year after year.